Welcome to the Old-Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. As we are recording, it is Easter Sunday, so celebrations to everyone who enjoys the day. And if you don't enjoy the day, at least enjoy the chocolate. Joining me this time around, as always, it's the Professor.
Hey, Johnny, how are you?
I am very well, thank you for asking. And back from his 13th travel, it is the 13th Crusader.
Greetings, gentlemen.
Hey, what's going on?
Buenas noches.
That means good night. Okay, nice show, guys.
No, it means good evening. Good evening. We say good evening as a...
Buenas tardes.
Is that not good afternoon?
Well, later in the day.
Okay, fine. What can I say? What do I know?
You learn something new every time on this show.
Yeah, I can barely manage English. Never mind Spanish. All right, this time around, because of the time of the year, we're going with that ever popular Easter egg. Excellent. Professor, in comic book world, what is an Easter egg?
Well, an Easter egg is something that alludes to something else. It's like a deep cut. It's something that people that are in the know will know, but everybody else will go right over their head.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's these little like knowing nods, isn't it? It's like but sort of thing. We have a couple of examples of that going on. 13. Why are Easter eggs popular?
Well, kids love to paint them and stuff like that.
Roll them down hills.
Yeah, exactly, and go looking for them and things like that.
You're cracking me up. Your yolks are so bad.
It's a little egg on your face there, machine.
No, my zip's up.
Oh boy, yeah. No, in comic books, I just look at them as subtle hints, and it could be subtle. Sometimes not so subtle, but a little hint there, a little spoiler alert. Something on the horizon.
I swear to God, there is nothing subtle about your choices at all.
It's okay.
It's like a smack in the face with a wet kipper.
It's okay, man. You're probably one of the few million that don't like it. That's
okay. I'll argue with you about that, Johnny, when we get to the point.
All right, okay, cool.
See, Professor, this is why we get along so well.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Pick on the
we'll explain the comics.
Oh, right. No more egg jokes. All right? None.
I won't hatch up anymore.
Stop it. I can mute you. It's as simple as that. First up, then, is the one of 13th choices. We all know 13 doesn't love to play by the rules, so he's gone for 2. To be fair, everyone, he went for 3, but I was like, there's enough, Yeah, so triple play, killing me. Right, here we go. First up is this beauty. I must admit, I absolutely saw this. I thought, what the hell's going on? This is Amazing Adventures number 16 from October 1972. Right, these books, all of them, on eBay, I will kid you not, the grades are so spurious. So if you're buying books off eBay, make sure you do the really in-depth search on the comic. Because I saw one comic that was listed as very fine, and I saw one as like very fine plus. And to me, there were neither. There were crease marks all over the place. So please, when we talk about the prices, don't. eBay has its own scheme thing going on. On eBay, a book's only worth what you want to pay for it. It's probably my best advice.
There you go.
That said, a fine version of this on eBay in the UK is 99 pence.
Hey.
So not even $1. On Go Grade, however, a grade 8 is $100. So there you go. This is written by Steve Englehart, who we've talked about, haven't we, Bud?
I've talked to him a few times. Bought a drink.
Yeah. Name dropper. Bud Brown is on art. Frank McLaughlin is on inks. Letters are by Charlotte Jeter, not Jeter, as I almost said it earlier. And Mary Severin and Glynis Wen get acknowledgements for their characteristic. I suppose. All right. What's going on? Why'd you pick this book, 13?
Well, the theme is Easter eggs, so this story popped into mind for a few reasons. So, I guess just for a matter of fact, there is this book, as you alluded to before, is connected to a Justice League book, which I'll touch on in a minute, and also a Thor book. And the reason why these books are connected is because several writers, Steve Englehart, Jerry Conway, Len Wein, they all did a secret crossover between Marvel and DC. The editors didn't know, and it all centered around a Halloween parade in Rutland, Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
So that story begins. Well, Rutland, Vermont has appeared in other comics and whatnot, but this is the first time where the story is kind of interconnected. And in some instances, you're going to see some Easter eggs. In some instances, like almost a direct reference. I found the whole thing to be humorous, but at the same time, you're getting a story in each of these books. So, in beginning with Amazing Adventure 16, this is one of the early appearances of Beast in his Beast form. So that's where you get a plus there. So if you're a fan of Beast, a member of the original X-Men,
I was looking for Marshawn Lynch when you said Beast Mode. I was like, what? There's no football in this.
I appreciated the early appearances, because two things were happening. One, the Beast metamorphosized into something else, but then also it's kind of a solo adventure, which you really didn't get in the pages of the earlier X-Men. So that was cool. As Steve Englehart, he's the guy's done a lot of legendary work, in my opinion. The art in here, it serves its purpose. I'm neutral on it, to be honest. I think it's okay. Where
there's an Easter egg right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Where?
So
Juggernaut, it looks like an egg.
Yeah.
He's wearing an Easter egg on his head.
It cracks like an Easter egg later in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I remember Juggernaut being a badass, and it was, the thing was welded on, and it was then mystically put on. And this one's just touch it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like a Lego. You just pop it off.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes this story the added twist, as I was mentioning, was the parade, and the party goers themselves are the actual creators between the Marvel and DC staff. So to get that story going, you have Juggernaut escaping a mystical dimension to this Halloween event, where the Beast happens to be catches a ride with the partygoers to that event. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this book, because I do want to cover the Justice League. But the Beast fights the Juggernaut, and on a good day, if Juggernaut had his wits about him, I think he'd take him on in a heartbeat. But the Beast uses his mind to kind of drag the battle out, and that's basically what you're getting with this issue. The party goers really are the Easter egg in here, where you see them dressed up in DC costumes, like Superman and things like that. You're gonna be like, wow, a Batman. So they don't.
Supergirl, or Glynis Girl, as the sign might say.
Yeah, they don't come outright and say that that's what they are. But they try to alter the uniform or draw it a little sloppy, as maybe the Halloween costumes of yesteryear were.
So you can't say that, not with cosplayers ruling the world right now.
Now, but we're talking like 50 years ago.
You can't say that now, can you?
Say what we want.
Okay, carry on.
So that's basically what the story is about in here, with Beast having to face the Juggernaut, and then in the background you have the party occurring, and then I just want to jump on to Justice League.
Give me 2 seconds then. Give me 2 seconds. Yep, I've got that just ready to prime, so if you just give me 2 moments to bring that up. I love the cover for this book. Let me just give you the rundown on this. Justice League of America, number 103, from December 72. eBay, you can get this for £6.95. Grade 9 in the States will cost you $110. Writers Len Wein, Dick Dillon's on art, Dick Giordano, the legendary Dick Giordano, is on inks. Ben Oder is on letters. No colorist is credited.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, so the story in Rutland kind of picks up here, where the Phantom Stranger is kind of aware that something's amiss in the world of mysticism, and he alerts the Justice League that something is going on there. So you're gonna get your typical Justice League lineup here from this day and age, which I love. That's what I loved about the Justice League of America runs from this era. Um, the artwork is Dick Dillon. I mean, this is pretty much a staple of Justice League art for this era. A uh, lot of words in this book. It's Len Wayne. Len Wayne. So, all right, you know, you're getting an okay story, but again, I think that the Easter eggs in here, it's loaded with the creators that are involved in this secret crossover, if you will. So adding the Phantom Stranger to this made sense to connect it that way, right? When you're kind of explaining interdimensional occurrences and whatnot. And the Justice League goes to that Vermont area, and they see the party goers there and whatnot. So certain scenes in between these books will look similar but not exactly the same. And then the party goers in here are dressed up in Marvel, uh some of the Marvel, some DC. You see a guy in the likeness of Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, known to people today. But there's a couple of panels here where the Easter eggs are more evident, where you see Batman fighting Spider-Man, and Thor is in a guy dressed up as Thor. So the villain in this book is Felix Faust. So the mysticism involved again. And I think the big Easter egg in this part is towards the end when Felix Faust is trying to escape. He actually steals Steve Englehart's car and drives away. So there is a epilogue, if you will, with that in the next book that I'll mention. But the party goers know that something's up, and basically, you're getting multiple adventures with all these books. You're getting the party goers, and you're getting the Justice League versus Felix Faust. So, and then I'll just touch on Thor real quick.
Okay, go for it.
Thor number 207.
Go on, keep talking. I'll get the dates while you're doing that.
All right, cool. Yeah, so in there, you're going to see kind of like the way in the Justice League book where they're on a parade float. In this one, you're going to see the Marvel characters on a parade float in the same parade with the Justice League in the back. So that's where you're getting your Easter eggs from, as far as like, hey, like what the hell's going on in here? If you were trying to put this together, if you were collecting all of these titles, you probably would have figured out like, something is up here.
Yeah.
But the odds of that, I don't know. To me, maybe slim to none. I don't think no one knew this was coming out. It was a secret crossover, if you will. In this Thor issue, Loki is really the center of attention here.
Again,
yeah, pretty much as usual for Thor book. But towards the end of this book, Loki himself is trying to escape, and then he hears a car in the background driving away, and that is actually connected to when Felix Faust stole Steve Englehart's car. So that's kind of a connection there. So again, like throughout all these books, you're getting your typical adventure, right, with the Beast versus a known X-Men villain in Juggernaut. You're getting the Justice League versus Felix Faust, who has been hanging around from the early days of the Justice League. And then Thor, of course, with Loki.
yeah.
But you're getting that adventure, but then you're also getting all of these Easter eggs connecting the three books together.
I have a question why the art on the Thor book looks so much better than the art in the Avengers book, considering it's the same guy, John Buscema. I don't know. That's just amazing, I suppose. Professor, what did you think of these three books?
I thought this was fun. It was great fun. Back in the day, I had read because this is not really the first appearance of Rutland, Vermont, in any of these books. Roy did an Avengers book, Roy Thomas, a couple of years earlier that was set in Rutland, Vermont, with the Halloween Halloween parade, and that's an actual real thing. I don't know if 13 alluded to that. That's the Rutland, Vermont Halloween parade has been a huge event since 1959, when Tom Fagan, who appears in these books, instituted the Rutland, Vermont Halloween parade, where frequently it was very, very heavily attended by superhero cosplayers. And Tom knew a bunch of these creators like Steve and Jerry and Len Wein, and invited them all up every year for Rutland, Vermont's Halloween parade. And they all stayed at Tom's house. This is where the crossover came from.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually had the opportunity to meet a couple of people that knew Tom. Tom died in 2008, October 21st, actually. So right before the Halloween parade. So it was an interesting thing listening to stories of the parade and some of the times that they've had over there. But that's been a huge thing for years and years, and it's still going on today. So
cool.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that the Easter egg was quite blatant, and Professor, you were going to pull me to task on this. Why do you think it? Why do I think it's quite blatant? Because it's right in your face. It's like, boom, there it is, right?
Well, so that's the thing is if you a lot of people didn't collect all three books, right? So if you just picked up Justice League, you wouldn't have any idea that there was any kind of a 3-parter crossover going on. You had to somehow collect Amazing Adventures starring the Beast, Thor, which is a totally different book, and Justice League, and then maybe you might get a clue on what's going on. But if you were just a casual reader, you would have never known.
Yeah, the Easter egg to me was more blatant with Justice League than any of the other 3 books. Justice League was an obviously popular title.
Yeah.
Compared to the other 2. Thor sold its copies, but Justice League definitely was up there. And the whole premise of this was that you have to put your mind back in this time, right? They didn't have an outright DC versus Marvel crossover like this, not at this scale. So the 2 companies just couldn't sit down and make it happen. So the creators did.
Well, and we've seen this a few times where, of course, back in the 70s, the writers would just sneak stuff by the editors all the time, and they never find it out until it's published.
And this was going to be my next question, because I love comic books, right? As we all do, because we talk about it. But I found the whole thing just too kooky, and I was like, I like the idea of the 3 stages, I suppose. And I like the kookiness from the idea that there is some sort of minor plot going on there, but the superhero stuff that surrounds it is just Hawkham. None of it makes any sense. The Beast taking on the Juggernaut and winning, really? And then halfway through the Justice League book, the 13th annual Halloween period, really?
You found my Easter egg.
That's
Finally.
the Easter egg there, right there. He picked it. Son of a. Anyway.
It's all connected, man.
Yeah. Here's my question then. Do we like it when creators appear in books as supporting characters, as the older face in the crowd? Because the Superman Muhammad Ali book has the creators in the crowd, doesn't it? Yeah. In the watching on.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Clark Kent and Lois have been at the Daily Bugle. Peter Parker's been in the Planet. There's always a stately Wayne Manor somewhere around the place. So, but when creators get put into the books, do we like that? Do we think that works, or do we kind of just have to suspend our belief for just a little bit?
Depends. It really depends. I mean, sometimes it's just I remember reading, I think it was an issue of Luke Cage, where the creators were down in the subway, and it was only for a couple of panels. And if you didn't know that was supposed to be John Byrne, because John Byrne's very guilty of drawing himself into the comics, then you wouldn't have known. So those I don't mind. Sometimes if it's really blatant, like the Fantastic Four visiting Lee and Kirby and the Marvel stuff, that's happened a million times. Then I'm kind of like, come on. But Fantastic Four is super guilty of that, where at any point in time you could see the creators kind of writing themselves into the books.
13th question for you. I sometimes feel that when creators get added into books, the art takes a dip. The exception to this is this Justice League book because it looks gorgeous all the way through. I remember when some of the writers appeared in Batman the Animated Series, right? And Batman Animated Series is all dark and big ears and all that sort of stuff going on, right? And then they turn up and they act like Looney Tune characters. And you're like, that doesn't fit with the show that you're doing. So I sometimes, especially in the Beast book, they look out of place. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean by they don't look as if they fit in there. I like the idea wholeheartedly. I think having that recurring thing kind of works. And of course, back then, whilst there was no, as 13 said, there's no DC versus Marvel, they're on the same publishing street. They would have a lot of interaction with each other. I mean, hell's bells, it wouldn't go a week before one of them leaves the book, leaves one company, joins the other, and then comes back again. So
yeah. I'll say this, right, and I'll leave it there. I'm with Bud, and then I'll add this where it does depend. If a story like this, because they couldn't do an official crossover and things like that, putting themselves in a story and like Lee and Kirby have done as well, that's fine. It depends on the context. If the context is that it's a cameo and it's subtle, I think the creator's doing their job, because most creators don't care. Like they want you to focus on their story, not if they appear in a book. But in a story like this where they're all over the place, it makes sense because of the context of the story, where you're crossing dimensions, there's mysticism here and things like that. How else can you make this happen? So it works because the creators are involved in making these books and etc. But I think if you fast forward more to today's age, putting yourself in the book is really, I see a lot of people being self-centered with it. And I think it's almost gotten to a point where it's a turnoff. So those are my opinions right there.
Cool.
I think a lot of the times, with people writing themselves in the books nowadays, it's that breaking the fourth wall. And if you remember She-Hulk with John Byrne on She-Hulk, and She-Hulk's yelling at Byrne to do things, and then we had of course now we're dating ourselves like 30 years ago, Grant Morrison on Animal Man. Yeah. So that was big fourth wall breaking, but.
Well, don't forget too that the Jack Kirby as a god, remember, as a god in the comic books, where like the one above all or whatever was Jack Kirby or something like that.
Well, you could say anything Jim Shooter wrote was autobiographical as the idea of the creator of everything. Bless his cotton socks.
Cameos and context are very important, but I just see that art has been lost in today's books. It's too much self-centeredness and other things that are in a new timers comic book show.
Yeah, first timers.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You want to talk about date myself? I was looking through Twitter this morning and seeing some of the Star Wars 23 celebration stuff. Return of the Jedi is coming back to the cinema on April the 28th this year to celebrate its 40th anniversary. 40 years. Oh my God.
Yep.
I just looked at my wife and like, man, I feel old. And she went, is that the one with the Ewoks in? I'm like, yeah, that's the one with the Ewoks in. Doing and gagging our house. All right, here's time for a quick break for one of our ads. Watch this closely. You never know. There might be an Easter egg of us three in this. know about you, but I saw all three of us there. I was wearing my traditional white shirt with my beard when it was black. Yeah, I saw that. 13th there with his face covered in a Boba Fett helmet. So you don't know what he looks like. The Professor.
This is the way.
There you go. Excellent. We brush our teeth, brush our teeth, brush our teeth. All right. If you want to know what we're talking about, go watch MPP because I think I've mentioned it more than once on there. All right. Next up, it is the Professor's Choice. And true to form, we've gone to the Avengers.
Hey, I haven't done an Avengers book in a while.
Yeah, just remember that when I pick Batman next time.
Okay.
Where's my notes? Where's my notes? I've lost my notes. Here we go. So this is Avengers 85 from February 1971. This was the one that got me absolutely steamed about eBay. £22 you can get this book, and it is a better copy than the one that was going around for £50. So honestly, check wisely. On Go Collect, Bud wins the prize for the most expensive book. With Go Collect has 9.6 at $1,650.
Wow, these books are just so out of control expensive now.
I just don't understand how one book can be 50 quid somewhere, and then a grade 6 will cost you $50.
Guys, this is not a fantastic book to be spending $1,000 on.
Just think though, it goes from 9.6 at 1,000 plus to 6 for 50. And a grade 6 is still a very attractive, readable book.
Right, but I mean, if you're buying a grade 6, you're getting it slabbed, and you're not going to open it and read it anyway. So what's the deal?
It's easy answer. It's speculation and hype and a first appearance.
Let me talk to you about
pretty much what it is.
There's a comic store near me called Something for the Geek End, and I was in there yesterday, and they've slabbed a whole host of modern comics. Mm-hmm. And asking like £90 and crazy prices for this. The back issue department is not in alphabetical order. So it goes something like Batman, Detective, Batwoman, Batgirl, Deadpool, Cable. Don't tell me that the Avengers come after the Fantastic Four. And then when you find the bin, they're not even in numerical order.
What's up with that?
Well, honestly, sort your stuff out, please. I almost swore there. Anyway, yeah. I digress. So, Professor, this is your pick. Written by Roy Thomas, art by John Buscema, inks by Frank Giacola, and letters by Mike Stevens.
Yeah.
What's the deal?
Well, I mean, the Easter egg really is the squadron here, but yeah, I love this book. This is the old school Roy Thomas run on Avengers. John Buscema on art. This is my creative team from back in the day. The lineup here, look at that. Can't go wrong there. You got Thor, Goliath, Quicksilver, Vision, Black Panther, and not really a member, but kind of Black Knight. So Black Knight's gone by page 3. So then you have I forgot Scarlet Witch down the corner there.
Yeah, there she is.
Got to have the token female member of the Avengers at this point.
Yeah.
But this book, they had just completed a battle with Archon, and they're getting sucked back to their world, and they end up on not their world. They end up on the world of the Squadron Supreme, this is the first appearance of the Squadron Supreme, even though we've got the first appearance of the Squadron Sinister sometime earlier, right? So the Squadron Sinister being Hyperion, Dr. Spectrum, the Wizard, and who's the other? Oh, Nighthawk, of course. And now this is just the, as if they weren't leaning into it enough, they had introduced more members of the Squadron Supreme, which is Hawkeye, Lady Lark, Tom Thumb, and is he called Captain Hawk in this, or is he Captain
American Eagle?
Oh, is he American Eagle? Is Captain Hawk in the second appearance? He keeps changing his name, and Hawkeye changes into the Golden Archer by his second appearance. Now, of course, you don't need me to tell you what the Easter eggs in this, right? So,
Go on. No.
the Squadron Supreme are all templates of the Justice League. So, since they can't use the Justice League, this is a nice little, kind of, you could call it a crossover, right? I mean, if you believe the Squadron Supreme is maybe the other world's Justice League. So,
all right. So help me out. So obviously, the dude with the bow and arrow is supposed to be Green Arrow.
Of course, yes.
The dude that looks like he came from a Jack Kirby book in the green.
Tom Thumb.
Yeah,
he's supposed to be the Atom.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. The chick.
The chick is that's Lady Lark, and she's supposed to be Black Canary.
Oh.
And then you have American Eagle, which is obviously Hawkman.
Okay, cool. And obviously Nighthawk is Batman.
Nighthawk is Batman, and then you have Dr. Spectrum is in the flashback here. There's Green Lantern, and the Wizard, which is Flash, and Hyperion is obviously Superman. So, and then
I thought the Squadron were a Mark Gruenwald thing.
Well, no. Roy Thomas created the Squadron Supreme.
Okay. Cool.
Mark Gruenwald did what he did with them, and introduced more characters like Nuke.
I think they were defined in the Squadron Supreme limited series run in the 80s.
Yes. The story is the key there with that utopian society. And the characters that I don't think are introduced in this story are Power Princess, the Wonder Woman character. Mm-hmm. She's later on, and then there's you think of a Justice League character. There's a character in Squadron Supreme that mirrors that guy.
I'm glad that Grunwald went and flashed them out because you need I think that context. You can get away with like nods to other characters for so long.
Yep.
But you've got to pay the due, especially if they're going to be recurring at some point.
Well, even Mark Grunwald's, he leaned into the fact that they're Justice League ripoff. Especially with they go into Hyperion's origin, Mark Milton, the whole alliteration with the secret identities, and he's the alien from another world and stuff like that. But they did with we're not talking about the Squadron Supremes limited series, but the what ends up happening with them is you can imagine if that was a Justice League story, how groundbreaking it would have been, and how many more eyes would have been on that. Yeah. So, but this this is a classic fight book, pretty much beginning to end. Avengers versus the Justice League. Squadron Supreme. So,
13th, what was your take on this book?
I absolutely love anything that has to do with Squadron Sinister, Squadron Supreme, whether it's in the pages of the Avengers or the Mark Gruenwald series, the Marvel graphic novel. They even showed them in other titles like Defenders and whatnot. So, absolutely love it. They're pastiches of the Justice League. But my strong opinion on the Gruenwald limited series, and I've mentioned this before, I felt Marvel at that time would have written a better Justice League than DC was doing, and I'm more of a DC guy. But here in the early adventures, in this day of Avengers, if you like a team, you can kind of do what I did. I went back in time to say, okay, when did they first come out? How were they presented? When they were the Squadron Sinister, they were villains. You knew right away, if Hyperion's like Superman, he's definitely going to cause trouble. But now you see them in this book, and much like the Avengers that get stuck in this parallel universe, they are thinking it's the Squadron Sinister, and I think that was a great plot to say, listen, don't be so close-minded. There are other parallel dimensions. You may see somebody that looks exactly the same, but in this world, they're heroes. And that's the part that I liked about it the most. And this actually goes on. The story after this issue picks up when it's revealed that Brainchild was the one that was behind the sun going nuclear and destroying this planet. So that kind of like ripped the squadron apart a little bit, but they solved it with the help of the Avengers that were here. And I like them more as Squadron Sinister, but as Squadron Supreme, this was okay. It is an early stage, right? Sometimes creators develop characters that can take some time and whatnot. They were not fleshed out. That's evident with the names here. But again, I think Mark Grunwald saw all of this, was probably a fan of it himself, and just put everything on the table and said, "This is what it's going to be." And it's one of my favorite limited series ever. What Mark Grunwald did with Squadron Supreme, which again, I think it's just to garner the interest and kind of spice things up in the pages of Avengers here with a team like this, right? Like how many other super teams other than Masters of Evil that the Avengers constantly fight out there that are formidable, right? So this to me became one of them.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the Squadron Supreme and the Squadron Sinister?
One's evil, one's good.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
The Easter eggs in the name machine, Sinister, right?
Yeah, but you say that, but it's like not as if the Squadron Supreme and the Avengers get on particularly well to start with, So in the world of superheroes, your best friend's also the dude you fight with for an issue and a half. So,
well, Roy Thomas, he grew up on All Star Comics and Batman and Superman, and this was his attempt really at creating an Earth 2 for Marvel, but have it be like a DC Earth. If this was DC, it would have been Earth X or Earth M. Earth M for Marvel, right?
Yeah.
So
that'd work.
Yeah, but he created the Squadron Sinister too, and that was their first appearance was with the Grandmaster pulled them out of a different reality. Right. So now we know that Squadron Sinister came from one Earth, and this is the Squadron Supreme, which came from another Earth. So there are two different versions of the Squadron, but that's a great, I think, a great thing that Roy was doing. We see it all the time now with people don't want to do their own creations and just kind of riff off of everybody else, and that's really what the Squadron was Roy's take on the Justice League. And it works. They work as villains. I think they work as heroes. I love what Roy did with them, and then what Mark did it. Post that.
Cool. Excellent. The art for me, the story makes more sense than the other two for sure. Let's get that out of the way first of all. John Buscema art on the Thor book, as I mentioned earlier. I had to look twice. The Thor panel at the top there screams Buscema, but there's no traditional. That's it. That's as far as it goes, I suppose. He's really good at drawing Thor. Everyone else is kind of, I don't know, hit and miss. I don't know. That's not a great Spider-Man pose. Scarlet Witch doesn't come across very well, which is ironic considering how well Buscema could draw women.
I never liked Buscema's Spider-Man. I kind of thought he was kind of chunky.
Yeah, blocky, definitely. I agree with you on that one.
There's a great panel in this of him with having the Vision go through a wall. I've never seen him look as ghost-like as he did.
Let's see if we can find it. The Vision looks well throughout the book, to be honest.
I agree with you guys there. I think he had that when it came to Thor and Vision, that was his best work.
Top one?
That's my top right. Yeah.
So what was that, 13th?
No, I agree with you guys that when it came to Thor and Vision, I believe that was where you really see his best work, even on a bad day.
And Conan. Those are the books to me that scream Buscema. This is just, I don't want to say it's such a great artist, but to me, sometimes his Avengers work seems a little bit paycheck. You know what I'm saying? But his Thor is gorgeous. His Thor book works brilliantly. I don't know. Maybe it's just certain artists prefer certain characters. I don't know.
Well, we know that he didn't love superheroes, so
yeah, that's true as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. It's interesting how his style is so unique, and yet Sal Buscema's art is renowned, especially early days, for being that house style, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, until he's kind of, I mean, it metamorphoses into his own style eventually, but then has to get curtailed into the McFarlane style again when McFarlane gets big. But no, you're right. The Vision looks gorgeous there. Good call.
I want to throw something out here too with the background. There's a lot of panels in here with no background, just color.
Mm-hmm.
So that maybe, that was part of the process, kind of to get this book along.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe there was a deadline or something like that, or were so many other projects. Like the artists back then had to work at a rate of speed that it just baffles the mind.
Yeah. Nope, good choice. Good choice all the way around. Good call. Right, my turn. I tried to buy this yesterday. I could not find it. Obviously, I was looking in the wrong place. I was probably looking under F for Web of Spider-Man or something. All right, here we go. So this is this beauty. It's a nice cover. And it is Web of Spider-Man number 18 from September 86. And not an expensive book when you consider this. There are some people trying to make a shed load of money on this. I saw this on eBay and people were trying to get £200, £300 for it. But on average, it's anywhere between a £5 and £50. Go collect a grade 8 will only cost you $12. There you go. I'm going to get the name wrong. Written by David Michaelini. Did I get it right?
Michaelini.
Oh, well. Art by Mark Silvestri. Inks by Kyle Baker. Colours by Bob Sharon. Rick Parker is on letters. This is pretty much a day in the life of. And I've got to admit something here. I picked this book. I did not know it was Silvestri on art. But have you ever seen Mary Jane wear that length of heel ever before? Mark Silvestri art. This is Mark Silvestri before he became mega famous after doing the X-Men.
Well, they also have Kyle Baker inking him, which didn't do him any favors.
True that. So you've got, it's pretty much, I always think Web of Spider-Man was, I always felt like it was the also ran book.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely was. Yeah.
It's kind of like where, because you had Amazing Spider-Man that was the big creators on there. Spectacular Spider-Man had gone through its upstart period. It had done its gritty crime stories with Kingpin and the Owl and Cloak and Dagger and Deb Whitman. And so that was pretty much entrenched now. Then this book comes along, The Third Wheel, and it felt like a third wheel. It didn't feel particularly connected. It wouldn't be till around, for me, around issue 30 in the 30s when Peter David took it over for a little while. And then it became better somehow along the line. But that may be it. And the art pretty much sums that up. The art isn't fantastic. Silvestri is a great artist, and it's not brilliant. But the recap is what happened to Spider-Man over a period of time. Ironically, Bud, when I was looking at this, he's fallen to a... wasn't this just in the recent issue when he fell into a forest and was battered and bruised?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was reading this morning. I was like, I'm sure I've read this weekend. There you go.
How many times did that happen?
Yeah.
I'm looking at when you're flipping through the pages. I don't mean to ruin your flow, but this is where Silvestri looks weird, is because he's doing the traditional 6-panel layouts.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. I suppose that's what you have to do when it's like a hot book. I don't know. He somehow manages to steal a coat, gets caught stealing a pie, gets arrested, then things go wrong. He just happens to be there in the right time and he saves everybody from whatever, and therefore gets out of jail free card. Why did I pick this as an Easter egg? Where is the Easter egg?
I couldn't find it. What's the Easter egg? It was very well hidden. I know
what it is. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I know exactly what it is.
This book, 13th, do you want to spoil my surprise?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
The hand of Eddie Brock is what pushes Peter Parker onto the train tracks.
Exactly right. This panel here is Venom.
And it even explains that, hey, I was almost killed and my spider sense did not warn me. And there were very, very few things, if any, in this day and age for Peter Parker where somebody could do that and sneak up on him.
Absolutely right. When McFarlane was leaving Marvel, there was a huge, great big uproar about who created Venom. And David Michaelini pulled out this issue of Web of Spider-Man and said, this was where Venom was going to make his appearance. That's Venom. That's Eddie Brock there, wearing the suits, the purple bit there. That was going to lead into Venom. It got hightailed, and then Michaelini went on to Amazing Spider-Man, and then McFarlane took over the art, and then before you know it, you've got Venom as you know it. So that's your Easter egg there. And that's why some people on eBay are trying to sell this book for £300, because it's the first appearance of Eddie Brock. And we've covered the first appearance of Eddie Brock.
This goes into that debate that back in the old days where I've even written articles on it. To me, a first appearance is the entire body, not a hand, not a shadow, not a voice. You could say it's the first mention, the first voice, the first whatever cameo, if you will. You know, that everlasting debate, like the first appearance of Wolverine. You know, you see him in full body in 180, but everyone wants to insist it's 181. So you guys go ahead and do that. Meanwhile, I have my copy of 180 over here. You know what I mean? But this, to me, does not constitute the first appearance of Eddie Brock. This could be more or less a cameo, a hand appearance.
Could be Mysterio.
Could be anyone. Could be anyone. It only becomes an Easter egg after the fact.
Correct.
Very similar to X-Men 201, which I did see yesterday. X-Men 201 is the appearance of
Cable.
Yeah. We didn't know it at the time. We get retcon, and it's now an Easter egg. That's his first appearance. No way are you spending the amount of money on X-Men 201 that you'd spend on New Mutants 87. No way.
Yeah, literally, this egg was in a basket.
What'd that tell you about jokes? Just because we're getting near the end of it, don't be going bonkers now. Hey, I don't know. So, what do we think of this book? Should we go 13 first and then round off with the professor?
Sure, I guess.
I'll go on then.
Yeah, so the Where is Spider-Man stuff back in this day when it was on the newsstands, I didn't like the aftermath, honestly. Like, I saw this cover and I'm like, I just passed it on. I was mainly invested in Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man, and again, as a kid, I had a limited budget, so I had to choose wisely, and that's what I did. I'm like, well, Peter Parker it is. Web of Spider-Man was every so often for me. And then especially with the missing in action storyline, I'm like, okay, how do I know Spider-Man's going to be in this book, right? Because there were other issues where he wasn't. When he was like the Secret Wars and all that stuff. But
not to say anything, but I'm sure the clue's in the title.
Correct. That's why I passed it on. And I'm like, okay, not again. This was kind of like I hate to say the word filler issue.
No, you say it. I felt the whole run of there's a whole chunk of Web of Spider-Man that feels like the filler issue.
Yeah, and the art in here again with Silvestri, it feels very incomplete. The fact that we know of his work today and what he's done. I love his artwork on Ghost Rider, but years later. But here it felt very incomplete. There are panels where it just looks like as if I'm looking at somebody without my glasses on. You know, you're out of focus and whatnot. But the story in itself is exactly what you said, Machine, is just what happened during a period of time. And that was it. And the big panel in here really is the hand. But you would never know that if you bought this off the newsstand. You would just, if you really paid attention, you're going to be like, okay, who can approach Spider-Man without triggering his spider sense? The only people that could do that would be people he knows. Maybe like even Mary Jane could have done that. Or Joe Robertson, like people he loves and trusts. You would never expect them to do something bad to you. But here it's Venom, and that's something that was big in this day and age. When Eddie Brock did come out with this alien costume, it was a big feature that, oh my god, like how is Spider-Man ever going to find him, because his spider sense would never go off.
Yeah,
and he could be behind him at any moment.
And of course, with the fact he can change his appearance.
Correct. And he had a big motive to go after Peter Parker and Spider-Man, right? With the suit, feeling betrayed that, you almost killed me with the sonic blast to get me off you. And Eddie Brock was already disgruntled. So it made sense. But you would never, ever in a million years have guessed that that really started with that panel.
Yeah, crazy. Professor, what was your take on this classic?
Yeah, so I agreed with you earlier where the Web of Spider-Man was it was like the redheaded stepchild of the Spider-Man books. We had Amazing and then Spectacular, and you were buying one or both of those, and then Web of Spider-Man was that third book that never really had its identity fleshed out. It was the third book for, I think, tryout creators, where they changed the art team quite a bit. You never really knew who was going to be writing it, who was going to be drawing it. It was always a lot of fill-ins. It was not really a lot of good, powerful storylines going on. It was there. It was convenient for that part 3 crossover,
Yeah.
But here, this is the era of the Spider-Man crossovers. Everything was crossing over from from Amazing to Spectacular to Web, and this was always the part that oh man, I got to buy Web this month. So for me, and the art reflects that. This is Silvestri. We know turns out to have a great career, but having Kyle Baker ink him was not a great idea. And plus, Silvestri hasn't really found himself here yet. He's still learning panel layouts. He's still doing. He's still learning perspective. Some of the stuff is just, it looks weird when you say this is Silvestri. I would argue with you about it if I didn't know. So
yeah, good call. I mean, faces. Everybody looks so old.
Yeah.
Well, Peter Parker does a panel with a couple with stubble on.
Yeah,
like he hasn't shaved in weeks.
It doesn't work. I think, as I mentioned earlier, Peter David did a four-part series on Web and started to pick things up, and then Jerry Conway, I think, started writing it along with Spectacular, and they had Alex Saviak, as the artist, and that was the pretty much format for ages. So that kind of made it more respectable. Because Conway was writing Spec at the same time, so things that would happen would cross over quite nicely. They would segue into each other, maybe not crossover.
Yeah, but then you had to buy both books.
Yeah, but you didn't mind that so much because now you're getting Jerry Conway as opposed to
that's true.
And you get Al Saviak, whose art is traditionalist, shall we say?
And Saviak was on Web for a while.
Years. Yeah, he was.
Years.
Yeah, at least all the way to 100, was he not?
Yeah, he did the back half of the run, I want to say. So,
definitely.
But he would never be my first pick for Spider-Man artists ever.
No, and I think
that's what that gave that identity of that your third option Spider-Man.
And I think when McFarlane became big and everyone had to draw Spider-Man in kooky positions, I don't think that suited Al Saviak's style, which was the more traditional, Romita Jr. look. He's like something like a fourth Romita clone or something, fourth generation. So
at the end of the day, you got to look at this also from a business perspective, right? Where in DC land, you have multiple Superman books, right, in Action and all these other, Brave and the Bold or DC Comics Presents. And in the mid 80s, if you remember, like Spider-Man, paid the bills for Marvel, but they were also competing with DC, right? So you got in a way that you got to, you try out another title. If it works, great. If it sticks, no pun intended for Spider-Man. But if you purchase Web of Spider-Man and you're a diehard fan of Spider-Man in general, that's probably one less DC book you're buying if you were on a budget like I was. But I gave this book up so I could buy my Avengers or FF at the time, or Justice League, or another Batman book.
So I slightly disagree with you. Back in the 80s, I don't think before McFarlane, I don't think Spider-Man was playing the Reds. I think it was up there, but X-Men uber alles.
X-Men ruled the roost back in the 80s.
It wasn't until McFarlane kicked in on Amazing Spider-Man that it became huge again for me.
And so Webb, I always say Webb was the redheaded stepchild of of the Spider-Man books. But Webb actually replaced what other Spider-Man book?
Marvel Team Up.
Yep.
Whoa!
Correct.
Cool, yeah.
So
That sounds great. There you go. I used to love Marvel Team Up. All right, cool.
But that was also the rotating creative team book.
Yeah, but you expected that because that's what it was, right?
Yep.
All right, there you go. More than 3 books this time. How lucky were you to get all those books in? Yeah.
Most of them are kind of more expensive than what we usually talk about.
Yeah.
I usually talk about the cheapo books, but
I normally hang around that. That's my bargain bin, definite for sure.
I used to see Web of Spider-Man 18 in every like 50-cent bin just a few years ago, like multiple copies of this thing.
I almost found it yesterday, but the numbers went something like 24, 46, 23, 8, 7, 12, 22, at which point I was like, I can't do this anymore. I walked out. What can I say? I will not be going back there again. All right. Okay. So that's your fill of all your Easter eggs, at least comic book style. If you still got chocolate going to survive the weekend, feel free, fill your boots. Don't blame me if you get diabetes. All right. Professor, thank you so much for spending the time.
Thank you, Johnny.
And 13th, thank you.
Excellent.
Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows, including Professor.
No Prize Podcast, all about Disney Plus, the MCU, and we managed to squeeze in some comics.
Excellent. And of course, the sister show of MPP is the Definitive Crusade. For all you DC diehards, it's on there. Drops alternate weeks to No Prize. And this. All right, there you go. We are out of here. Gentlemen, one last thank you. And for everyone else, adios.